right. What's your one then?
Buyer's Remorse.
Hello and welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Darren.
I'm Justin.
And in Buyer's Remorse, we like to make each other play a game for 60 minutes that's sitting in our library that we have never tried before, and we've got lots of them to get through. We've got the backlog of shame.
This podcast will go forever.
It will. Especially at the rate we keep on buying bundles. So, what did I choose for you this time?
You chose a game called Sleepwalker.
Ocean Bundle Strikes Back.
This, now, I believe, is the last of this 8-game bundle, of which I do believe I got you to play 6, and I played 2. I think we'd have
It's
to
definitely something
go back
like
over
that.
it.
It's very one-sided.
Sleepwalker. Okay, so developer Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Published by Pico Interactive. And also something called Classics Digital, which I don't know if they're connected in some way. This is a game that... It's one of those weird things. So when you have so few reviews on Steam...
Right.
That you can see that the numbers are weird. Something is wrong. It says, read the one review. But then there's another way where I could see that there's actually supposed to be 11. And then when I looked at the reviews, there are only 6 of them. So I don't know what's going on with the numbers. Maybe you need bigger numbers to make the algorithm work and lower numbers confuse it. But it's really weird. There were 6. And here's the thing. 3 were thumbs up and 3 were thumbs down. So I think that counts as mixed.
Mm-hmm.
The date on Steam says it's from April of 2018, but it looks like it's really more from 1993.
Right.
It's $5 at base, but we got it in originally the bundle must have been like $5 total. And this was just one of
a bundle within a bundle.
Yeah, it basically was. So I did not pay $5 for it.
No.
And yeah, I'm probably not going to suggest anyone else pay $5 for it. The basic premise of the story is there's a little boy called Lee who's sleepwalking, and his faithful dog named Ralph must save him. Ralph looks amazingly like the dog from Duck Hunt.
Oh, right, okay.
And so I couldn't help but think at the beginning, did Ralph become bitter after this, and that's why he is the way he is in Duck Hunt? Or was it the other way around? After being so mean in Duck Hunt, he suddenly decides to be very nice. We have no idea. This game, I mean, you've played some other games with a similar premise. I think Back to Bed is a similar thing where you basically try to protect someone as they're sleepwalking.
Right. Is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay.
This one is 2D, though, and I think that one is more 3D. Is that right?
Yeah.
That one is probably also better for mechanics. So we're going to talk about that. I did not finish a single level.
Wow. Really? In an hour?
Yes.
Yikes.
As I fired up the game, it is essentially a DOSBox emulator, I think, that pops up. And then an Ocean logo pops up with a tomato that smashes on the screen that says Comic Relief.
Okay.
And then a voice says Comic Relief or something like that.
It's probably Lenny Henry.
Could be.
All right, so maybe this was a game that was like a charity game then, before Humble had their thing. Then maybe this was a game for the Comic Relief.
I wouldn't be surprised, but then that makes me feel bad because I'm probably not going to say a lot of nice things about the game. It's a brilliant concept for a game, and it doesn't look bad, especially for 1993. Like,
when I looked at that, I was like, I checked the store page, and it was like, it doesn't look bad, but I was thinking, I bet you the mechanics are terrible.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Well, there are 2 problems. One, the game doesn't explain itself at all. Welcome to the Oceans bundle.
Yeah.
But 2, yeah, the mechanics are really bad. Not all of the mechanics, but it doesn't take much in a game where timing is important and where you have to deal with this sleeping character to make that really, really frustrating. And I don't know if even in 1993 I would have put up with this game for very long, because it took me an hour and I didn't even get through the first level. There is a cutscene that happens. Well, I guess first the logo. So the Sleepwalker logo, it comes up, it's purple, but kind of through the letters, you can see Lee walking through and the dog following.
Right.
The menu, if we're going to call it that, there is no real menu. There's no options I could find or anything. And the controller doesn't work on this screen. But once I hit enter and I'm in the game, now the controller does work.
Okay.
Probably not as well as the keyboard and mouse. Yeah, well, keyboard. There is no mouse for this game.
Oh, okay.
So you have to use, I believe the WASD keys work, or you could use the number pad keys if you want to do that instead. You have to, well, it took me ages to figure out what I was supposed to be doing mechanics-wise. You can, I think the only two buttons that you have access to are space and, well, that's pretty much it. Up jumps.
Okay. Of course it does.
But there are things like if you jump and you hit space, Ralph brings out a giant club, which he can hit people over the head with.
Okay.
Because early on in the game, there was a nightclub where if Lee walks by, the bouncer will beat up anybody who comes near him.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take out the bouncer so that that doesn't become an issue. But really, I wouldn't get Lee over there anyway. It's like really, it's harder to get Lee over there than is necessary. So I don't even know why that would happen. I do think that there might be because of the save point checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So after you lose a Lee, then it might start you off in an area that it might lead you to being there.
Is it like a 3 lives kind of game?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think even if Lee wakes up, you lose. So there's a section I didn't get to, but there's a part where he would just be getting a bit wet. And I think that would also be a lose condition.
Ah, okay. Right.
I mean, the place where he died the most, he was getting very wet. But the one I'm talking about is just like a trickle of water he would have walked through.
Right.
There are all sorts of things that you need to prevent him from dying in.
Okay.
So the first is an open hatch above an apartment. If you, as the dog, fall through, the owner gets very angry and kicks you out the window. Now, you can't die.
Right.
You can be blown up. You can be set on fire. You can fall a great distance. You might have a goofy animation, but you won't die. But Lee can.
Okay.
But I think even that one is not, that's the very first one. I don't think that's a lose condition because I think they realized that was a bit too much right away.
So are you playing as the dog then?
Yes, trying to prevent the boy from being woken up or dying.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the whole thing is explained within a cutscene.
Okay.
And you start off with Lee is just always walking. And the sound that they chose for walking is not a good sound. It sounds like a printing press
Okay.
that's constantly running. But he's always moving. And one thing I did find when I switched over to keyboard and mouse is there is a way to turn Lee around to get him to walk the other way.
Okay.
Which, with the controller, I'm sure is probably possible. I just couldn't seem to get it to work. There are so many obstacles. So like I said, there's these hatches above apartment buildings. There are, I think if he falls, he can fall pretty far, but if he does fall too far, I think there's a lose condition there. There is a lose condition for him drowning. That's a big issue. But the bigger issue with that is the fact that, and I watched video of this, and so I know on the computer or whatever was working before, this part made more sense. But there's a whole section at the bottom of the screen where basically the sewer water is pouring out of these things. You need to close the hatch so that the sewer water doesn't push Lee off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a big block that you can push to stop him walking down a hole.
Okay, yeah.
There's a barrel you can time to get him to walk onto and then just walk across.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, on my version, there was no water there. So it just looks like the barrel is floating in air. And when you fall in as the dog, as Ralph, it says splash. Comic book style,
Okay.
the word splash comes up.
Right.
What am I splashing on? What am I swimming in? I have no idea because it just looks like air. It's totally ridiculous. Clearly a bug.
Nice
but it
one.
was every time I went out of the game, I came back in, still there.
A classic Pico interactive port.
You can find letters to spell comic. There are also some weird things that are floating that I guess you can pick up, but I don't know what they do.
So is this like an escort mission, basically, where you got to escort him from one side of the screen to the other?
Yes.
Is there platforms that you can like go up and down on? Is there...
Oh, yes, big time. That's the biggest problem. So you can kick Lee up onto one of the platforms.
Ah, okay.
But doing that is nearly impossible.
Right.
Like, you can get him up one, but then getting him a second one is a real problem. And that's the thing. The farthest I got was I realized I could get Lee across this electric wire or telephone wire. You can bounce it and make him fall. Mm-hmm. You can bounce on it and get yourself very high. But if you don't touch anything, he'll walk across, and there's a place where you can get him stuck going back and forth between these two walls. Mm-hmm. And then you can go all the way around and set everything up to be ready for him.
Right.
That is probably what I spent the most time doing, was just exploring. Because the mechanics were so awful. As far as kicking Lee and making that work properly, there's a way to... Honestly, there's a huge gap in that bottom part with the sewer water where the idea is you have to push him quickly to the edge and kick just when you get to the edge to kick him across this huge gap, which I couldn't figure out how to do. I tried and tried, didn't get it. It's one of those things.
Did you get close?
No, because if you do it wrong, he just goes up. He doesn't go over very far.
Right.
He just goes up mostly. So I didn't know what I was doing. Is it one of these pickups that I don't understand? Is it a mechanic that I don't know because I've tried every button on the keyboard, but I only seem to get the space one to work? This is where I went and I watched a video. Mm-hmm. And in that video, they did exactly the same thing I was doing, running around, exploring everything, because clearly even they couldn't figure out how to get him across. Oh. So I had to find a second video. And that video, they did do the push across, and when I saw it happen, I went, okay, so I was on the right track. I just didn't have the timing right.
Okay.
But in a game like this, where you're not being told what to do, how to do it, there's no instructions even for the keys and what they do. It's very difficult to realize if you're on the right track or not. This is the type of thing where when we were kids, it took friends both trying crazy things. One will time it right, one won't. Eventually you'll figure it out.
Right.
But when it's just you and the clock for an hour. So I did end up going back. I did that. And then you kick, well, you've got to shut another sewer hatch. But then you kick Lee up and there's a double platform and then you need to get him up to street level. The game...
Here it comes.
You kick him up to the first platform. Mm-hmm. And the timing is awkward because then you have to get yourself up there. The jumping is awkward as well. Mm-hmm. Just getting it timed and the way the animation works. But I finally anyway, got up there, kick him up. And when I kick him up, that turns him around. And now Lee walks through the wall. Oh. It's not a mistake.
Okay.
There's a secret area I hadn't found before because why would I? It looked like a wall.
Yes.
There's some sort of extra secret object that you can walk him into, but I can't get him out of the room then. So I just hit escape. Escape in this does not take you out of the game. It just kills Lee and lets you start back at your checkpoint.
Right.
But 3 tries, he always walked in. I couldn't get him out. It was just too frustrating. So that is pretty much where I ended. But I do want to talk about the fact that the game has, even just within this first level, because you can get Lee stuck in this area early on, you can explore a whole other area. There are so many things going on here.
Is it like a big map, yeah?
Yeah. There's awnings you can bounce off of. There are small gaps with these metal rods above the roof. So you can get Ralph to hold either side and become a bridge.
All right, okay.
There are these, I don't know what they are, furnaces on the ceiling, which spew fire at times.
Okay.
There's something that explodes. There's traffic lights, so you have to time it so that he walks across when it's safe.
Not through traffic, yep.
There's a block you can move in front of the water so he doesn't wake up, I guess, or slip. I don't know what's going to happen because I've never got him that far. Mm-hmm. There's another traffic area where there's just a dummy with a stop sign, and you just push it in front of the car. So
Okay.
it'll stop that.
Is the traffic moving and stuff?
It's moving towards you, towards the camera.
Like going into the screen or out of the screen kind of thing, yeah.
I don't think it ever moves the other way, luckily. I think it only ever moves towards you so you can see the car coming. There's a lot going on there. And I wanted to play that part. I really did. But the mechanics are so awful when it comes to getting the kicking mechanic doesn't work very well. The timing of it is difficult. There are also times where pretty much if you just stand there, the dog will stop Lee from walking anywhere.
Okay.
A lot of times you're trying to do that at the edge. Here's another thing. This is a rage quit thing, if ever I've seen one. If you stand too close to the edge, your dog says something like, bye-bye, and then falls in. But it's this whole very long animation that takes so long that Lee can be walking along. By the time he gets to you, you still are just trying to get back from falling in the water.
Right.
So pretty much every time I got close, it was always this nail-biting moment of, am I too close that I'm going to fall in and have to start over again?
Right.
And then having him walk through the wall, no, like that. You've made it way too difficult without explaining anything.
Yeah. So I've got two questions, though. Out of the whole area that you managed to explore, so I can visualize in my head, what percentage of the area did you actually get through then? If you've seen most of the area, how far did you get through one level?
20%, maybe.
Wow. Maybe there only is one level, man. Maybe it's just this level.
It is possible.
And
I do think that could be possible, though I think on the Steam page I saw images that made it look like you're actually somewhere else. Because this level is all about being at night in the city, and I think that there was an image that looked a totally different atmosphere, different environment.
Another one was like, what platform do you think this was released on, judging by the graphics? So certainly it wasn't a Spectrum game. It looks more like maybe a Mega Drive, like Genesis kind of game. What kind of platform do you think? 93? Yeah? Is that what you said?
It could have been. I honestly have no idea. You would know better about computer stuff than I would. It feels like a computer game, though.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that it's only one button. And that, I mean, you've got the arrows and you've got space bar. Any controller game at the time, they would have tried to maximize the use of buttons. So you would have had a jump button, a hit button, and one button that probably used one of these pickups if they actually do anything.
Right.
So my guess would be PC, but your guess is as good as mine. I didn't really look that up.
So, what tags would you give it then? Because this sounds like a really hard game to place, actually.
Well, their tags were adventure, strategy, classic, and 2D.
Well, I could see two of them making sense.
So what I would say more is puzzle, yes. Platform, yes. 2D, I guess. I wouldn't really say strategy. I would say more puzzle than strategy. When I think strategy, I'm more thinking about Total War and those kind of games.
Yeah.
But really, I would replace any of those with like bad mechanics or not for impatient people.
Right.
Because you do have to be incredibly patient. There are times when Lee is walking the wrong way and you may as well just wait and let him.
So does he go down and then come back kind of thing?
Yes. And the barrel will come and it'll be just timed so that Lee comes just too late to get on the barrel, so you have to wait for the barrel to go all the way across and all the way back.
It's not a game that's on a timer though, is it?
Not that I noticed, no.
That's good. So would you recommend that I play this then?
I would definitely recommend that you play it. I think that you would probably enjoy it. Did you play this one?
No.
You will, at least as I did, appreciate the fact that it is a good idea for a game and that there was a lot of love put into it. Mm-hmm. If they had just put as much love into the mechanics, this game would have been a winner.
Right. And so who would you recommend it for then?
Honestly, I'm not sure that I'd really recommend it to anyone because of how frustrating it was in the early game. The fact that I couldn't find walkthrough videos.
Right.
The only two videos I found were about 9 minutes and 12 minutes, and they didn't get much further than I did.
See, so you've got to make the video then. You can make the walkthrough.
Oh, no. This is another game where you may have to do the video just because, or at least record it for me because the recording software I use doesn't record when it goes to full screen and there's no options.
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
But it would be great if you did that, so you can.
So now I've got to play
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Buyer's Remorse or Confirmation?
I want to say Confirmation because it is. I mean, the look of the game, the thought of the map, is very good. It's very silly, but
and it was for sick children.
Yeah.
You
throw that one in there.
Children, Justin.
Yeah. At the end of the lives, when you run out of lives, it will say how much, I think, percentage you did, how long you played for, and how much comedy you had, which I'm assuming is how much you spelled out comic, how many times you were able to do that, which of course I got 0 because I found all but one letter. There's one letter I couldn't find. I would not play it again. I would not recommend it to anyone. And so I'm going to have to say it's Remorse.
Remorse.
Well, This one was called Beast Battle Simulator. No, I wouldn't go as far as to say they're like South Park cardboard cutouts, just deep moving along, but there's a sandbox mode where it's just like, choose a terrain, you got 2 sides, and you got infinite money, so you can really like just drive your FPS into the dirt with this, because I filled this whole screen with like 5,000 velociraptors. Penguins rule. So
Penguins.
Yeah.
All this and more in the next episode of Buyer's Remorse.